Welcome to Midnight Murmur. Here, the night comes alive with chilling tales and spine-tingling stories. If you crave the thrill of the unknown and the eerie whisper of the supernatural, you've found your new haunt. Join us as we dive into the darkest corners of the human mind, unraveling short horror stories that will keep you up at night. Hit that subscribe button, turn off the lights, and let the murmur begin. The Echoes of Silent Hill. Chapter 1. The Invitation. Sarah, Ben, Lucas, and Jenna had been friends since college, bonded by a shared love of adventure and thrill-seeking. So when they received a mysterious invitation to visit the abandoned town of Silent Hill, they couldn't resist. The invitation was unsigned and cryptic, promising an experience like no other. Silent Hill, huh? Lucas said, looking at the faded map that had come with the letter. Isn't that place supposed to be haunted? It's probably just a marketing gimmick, Ben replied. But it'll be fun to explore. Jenna, the most cautious of the group, frowned. Are we sure about this? I've heard some pretty creepy stories. Sarah grinned, her adventurous spirit shining through. Come on, what's the worst that could happen? It'll be an adventure. They packed their gear and set off, driving through the dense forests that surrounded the town. As they neared Silent Hill, a thick fog began to envelop the road, obscuring their view. This is it, Sarah said, her voice tinged with excitement. Silent Hill. Chapter 2. Entering Silent Hill. The fog grew thicker as they entered the town, reducing visibility to just a few feet. The streets were eerily silent, devoid of any signs of life. Buildings stood in various states of decay, their windows shattered and doors hanging ajar. Well, this is cheerful, Lucas muttered, scanning the deserted streets. They parked the car and set out on foot, exploring the abandoned shops and houses. Each building told a story of sudden abandonment, with personal belongings left behind, as if the occupants had fled in haste. This place gives me the creeps, Jenna said, hugging herself for warmth. It's like everyone just vanished. Look at this, Ben said, pointing to an old newspaper lying on the ground. The headline reads, Mysterious disappearances continue in Silent Hill. Guess the rumors were true, Sarah said, her excitement tempered by a growing sense of unease. They continued to explore, their footsteps echoing through the empty streets. As they ventured deeper into the town, the fog seemed to thicken, and an oppressive silence settled around them. Chapter 3. The First Sign. As they approached the town square, they noticed a large, decrepit church looming over the other buildings. Its doors were slightly ajar, and a faint light flickered within. Let's check it out, Sarah suggested, leading the way. The interior of the church was dark and musty, the air thick with the scent of decay. Pews were overturned, and the altar was covered in dust. In the corner, they found a dusty old journal. Ben picked it up and began to read aloud. June 12, 1974. The whispers have started again. I fear the darkness is growing stronger. Whispers? Lucas repeated, frowning. What do you think it means? I'm not sure, Ben said, flipping through the pages. But it doesn't sound good. As they read, a faint whispering began to fill the air, growing louder with each passing moment. Do you hear that? Jenna asked, her voice trembling. Yeah, Sarah replied, her face pale. Let's get out of here. Chapter 4. The fog deepens. Back outside, the fog had grown so thick they could barely see each other. The whispers followed them, growing louder and more insistent. We need to find a place to stay for the night, Ben said, his voice tight with fear. We can't stay out here. They found an old hotel at the edge of town, its neon sign flickering dimly. The lobby was empty, the furniture covered in dust. They found a few rooms that were relatively clean and settled in, hoping the fog would lift by morning. As night fell, the whispers grew louder, echoing through the halls of the hotel. The temperature dropped, and an oppressive sense of dread settled over them. "I don't like this," Jenna said, her voice barely a whisper. "I feel like we're being watched." "We need to stay together," Sarah said, trying to sound reassuring. "We'll figure this out." Chapter 5. The First Nightmare. That night, Sarah was plagued by terrifying nightmares. She saw herself wandering through the fog, pursued by shadowy figures with hollow eyes. The whispers grew louder, filling her mind with incomprehensible words. She woke with a start, her heart pounding. The room was dark, and the whispers were still there, growing louder and more insistent. "Guys, wake up," she called out, her voice shaking. "Something's wrong." The others stirred, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. "I had the worst nightmare," Lucas said, his voice trembling. "I was being chased by something in the fog." "Me too," Jenna said, hugging herself. It felt so real. Ben nodded, his face grim. "We need to get out of here. This place is haunted." Chapter 6. The haunting escalates. They packed their bags and left the hotel, the whispers following them through the fog. As they walked, the town seemed to shift around them, the streets and buildings changing, as if guided by an unseen force. "This doesn't make sense," Ben said, looking around in confusion. "We should have reached the edge of town by now." "It's like the town is alive," Sarah said, her voice filled with dread. As they wandered through the shifting streets, they stumbled upon a large, imposing hospital. Its windows were dark, and the air around it felt colder, more oppressive. "Maybe we can find some answers in there," Lucas suggested, though his voice was filled with hesitation. With no other options, they entered the hospital, the whispers growing louder as they crossed the threshold. Chapter 7. The Hospital's Secret. Inside, the hospital was dark and eerie, the air filled with the scent of antiseptic and decay. They moved through the halls, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. In one of the rooms, they found a series of old medical records. Ben flipped through them, his face growing more troubled with each page. "These patients," he said, his voice shaking. "They all described hearing whispers, seeing shadowy figures. It's like they were all going mad." "Do you think the town drove them insane?" Jenna asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Maybe," Ben said, his face pale. "Or maybe it's something else." As they continued to explore, they found a hidden door in the basement. It led to a series of underground tunnels, the walls covered in strange symbols and writings. Chapter 8. The Underground Tunnels. The tunnels were dark and claustrophobic, the air thick with moisture and the scent of rot. The whispers were louder here, echoing through the narrow passageways. They followed the tunnels, hoping to find some clue that would help them understand what was happening. As they ventured deeper, they found an old, decrepit room filled with ancient books and artifacts. "These look like occult symbols," Lucas said, examining one of the books. "Do you think this is some kind of cult?" "It's possible," Ben said, his voice tense. "But we need to be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with." Suddenly, the whispers grew deafening, and the room was plunged into darkness. They heard the sound of footsteps, growing closer and closer. "We need to get out of here," Sarah said, her voice filled with panic. Chapter 9. The First Attack. As they fled the room, the footsteps followed, growing louder and more frantic. They could feel something chasing them, its presence a cold, malevolent force. Ben was the first to be caught. He let out a scream as invisible claws raked across his back, drawing blood. The others turned to see him being dragged into the darkness. "Ben!" Sarah cried, reaching out to him, but it was too late. He disappeared into the shadows, his screams echoing through the tunnels. "We need to keep moving," Lucas said, his voice shaking. "We can't help him now." They ran through the tunnels, the whispers and footsteps following them. The air grew colder, and they could feel the presence of something malevolent all around them. Chapter 10. The Sacrifice. They emerged from the tunnels into a large, open chamber. In the center was a massive, ancient altar, covered in blood and surrounded by strange symbols. "This must be where they performed their rituals," Jenna said, her voice filled with dread. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, and a ghostly figure appeared before them. It was Ben, his eyes hollow and his body twisted in pain. "You must leave," he said, his voice a haunting echo. "The darkness demands a sacrifice." "What are you talking about?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "The town is cursed," Ben said. "The whispers, the shadows, they are all part of it. To lift the curse, someone must stay behind. Someone must be sacrificed." "No," Sarah said, shaking her head. "We can't leave anyone behind." "You don't have a choice," Ben said, his form flickering. "The darkness will consume you all if you don't." Chapter 11. The Escape Attempt. Desperate to escape, they fled the chamber, hoping to find a way out of the tunnels. But the passages seemed to shift and change around them, leading them in circles. "The town won't let us leave," Jenna said, her voice filled with despair. "We're trapped." "We have to keep trying," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. "There has to be a way out." As they ran, they heard Ben's voice echoing through the tunnels, urging them to leave someone behind. The whispers grew louder, and the shadows seemed to close in around them. Chapter 12. The Final Stand. They emerged from the tunnels into the town square, the fog thicker than ever. The whispers were deafening now, and the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. "We need to make a stand," Lucas said, his voice filled with resolve. "We can't keep running." They formed a circle, their backs to each other, ready to face whatever came. The shadows closed in, and the air grew colder. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake, and a massive, shadowy figure emerged from the fog. It was a monstrous, twisted creature, its eyes glowing with malevolent light. "This is it," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. "We fight or we die." Chapter 13. The Battle. The creature lunged at them, its claws raking through the air. They fought back with everything they had, using whatever weapons they could find. Lucas was the first to fall, his body crushed beneath the creature's massive claws. Jenna followed soon after, her screams echoing through the fog. Sarah and Ben fought with a desperate fury, but the creature was too strong. As it loomed over them, ready to strike the final blow, Sarah made a decision. "Go," she said to Ben, her voice filled with resolve. "I'll stay behind. I'll be the sacrifice." "No," Ben said, his voice filled with anguish. "I can't leave you." "You have to," Sarah said, her eyes filled with tears. "It's the only way." Chapter 14. The Sacrifice. Sarah stepped forward, facing the creature. "Take me," she said, her voice steady. "I offer myself as the sacrifice." The creature paused, its glowing eyes fixed on her. Then, with a deafening roar, it lunged at her, its claws raking across her body. As Sarah fell, the whispers grew louder, filling her mind with darkness. She felt herself being pulled into the shadows, consumed by the malevolent force that had plagued the town for so long. But in her final moments, she felt a sense of peace. She had saved her friends, ended the curse. Chapter 15. The Darkness Lifts. As Sarah's body fell to the ground, the creature let out a final, deafening roar and vanished into the fog. The whispers fell silent, and the air grew warmer. Ben stood alone in the town square, his heart heavy with grief. He knew Sarah had sacrificed herself to save him, to end the curse. The fog began to lift, and the town seemed to come alive again. The buildings stood taller, the streets brighter. The oppressive darkness was gone, replaced by a sense of peace. Chapter 16. The Aftermath. Ben wandered through the now silent streets, his heart heavy with sorrow. He knew he had lost his friends, but their sacrifice had saved the town. As he left Silent Hill, he felt a sense of closure. The town was no longer haunted, the whispers silenced forever. In the weeks that followed, he tried to return to normalcy. But the memory of that night stayed with him, the images of his friends' sacrifices etched into his mind. Chapter 17, The Return. Years later, Ben found himself drawn back to Silent Hill. The town was now a popular tourist attraction. Its dark history turned into a source of fascination. As he walked through the now bustling streets, he felt a sense of peace. The darkness was gone, replaced by light and life. But as he neared the town square, he felt a familiar chill. The air grew colder, and he heard a faint whisper. "Thank you," the voice said, barely audible. "You have freed us all." Ben smiled, knowing his friends were at peace. He had faced the darkness and come out the other side, stronger and more resilient. Chapter 18, The Legacy. Silent Hill was transformed, its dark past a distant memory. The town was filled with life and laughter, a testament to the bravery of those who had faced the darkness. Ben became a storyteller, sharing the tale of Silent Hill with those who would listen. He honored the memory of his friends, ensuring their sacrifice would never be forgotten. Chapter 19, The Final Whisper. As Ben grew older, he found solace in the knowledge that he had faced his fears and emerged victorious. The whispers of Silent Hill were silenced, but their memory lived on. One night, as he sat by the fire, he heard a faint whisper, a voice from the past. "Thank you," it said, filled with gratitude and peace. Ben smiled, knowing his friends were watching over him. He had faced the darkness and come out the other side, forever changed. Chapter 20, The End of the Nightmare. In the end, the story of Silent Hill was one of courage, sacrifice, and redemption. The town was freed from its curse, the darkness banished forever. Ben lived the rest of his life in peace, knowing he had made a difference. The memory of his friends stayed with him, a reminder of the strength and bravery that had brought light to the darkness. And so, the whispers of Silent Hill faded into legend, a dark chapter closed, never to be reopened. The town thrived, a beacon of hope and resilience, a testament to the power of courage and sacrifice.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling content.